Okay, I'm going to put this first before I put what it means to be a prepper. Okay, or whatever I'm going to name it, something to do with preppers, okay? I just want you to notice this, people. Like, this is the shit that she does. Okay, I just did a video on this, right? She posted this video up 16 hours ago. You can see that, okay? I got up this morning to see what was going on. She got herself a little 23 views. And then I noticed that she put this one in. If you notice, I haven't looked at it. I haven't even looked at it because she posted this. I guess she posted that and then put it on private. And then at some point, put it back up. Because that's what she does. Right? So that she can play on people's sympathy cards. Okay? I'm not even going to go down that road right now. Okay? She did that 21 hours ago, but she had it on private. She put that one up. And like I said, if you notice, I haven't seen it, and I haven't bothered to look at it, because I know what kind of game she's playing. Anyway, this was when I got up this morning. And if you notice, I got a lot of browsers open, okay? That's what I do. So I went into another browser, and look what she's done now. She's taken it out, people. She's taken it out. And you want to know why she took it out? Because I linked her video into my video reference, right? And then I linked it to the web page on my site, right? With the time capsule in regards to that meeting that I had with Malcolm X's sister's gifts that she sent me to give out to the people at that meeting. The only thing is, you see, I rented a hall, people, that could fit 250 people in it. All right? And you have to remember, I was just starting out with this foundation. So anyway, I met some people, Halifax, Nova Scotia, whatever. They signed on as board directors. I gave them flyers. I gave them all the paperwork. I spent over $1,000 for that hall, people, between purchasing the hall for the night, paying for the insurance for the hall. I bought more than enough food for 250 people. And all I did was, I had DJ equipment, everything, people. All I did is I asked for the board directors that came from the east coast of Canada. There was several of them signed up to get people to come. To get people to come. Well, guess what they did, people? They didn't promote it at all, but they showed up. So Uncle John and I, we sat around the table with all these board directors, right? And maybe one would bring a wife or a husband or something, but outside of that, there was only like 12 of us or something like that. A few kids running around, mine, my son's friend, okay? And I told you what happened. After we had our meeting, I asked why nobody was there. Like, they were from Nova Scotia, or I'd have to go back into my records to confirm exactly what province it was either Nova Scotia or Halifax, one or the other, right? And they just didn't tell anybody about it, people, because they were mocking me from the very fucking beginning. Honest to God, I don't even know why they signed on as board directors. I really don't. They had no intentions of helping me. Having that meeting proved that. And then in the end, they took everything that Malcolm X's sister sent me, right? And I just stood there with my mouth dropping, right? It wasn't like I could put them all in check, right? And they wiped me out. And then they just fell off to the fucking wayside because they never had intentions of helping me. Like they said, they didn't want to help the Americans. They wanted the Canadian blacks in the fucking east coast of Canada to be helped first because they're the ones who suffered the most. Being that I was in Canada, that is. Okay? So anyway, you can see what I did. I linked her video into my video response. Right? I linked it to the page where you could see what I wrote for that meeting. Right? Okay? It was May 18th of 2001. I spent over $1,000 for the hall, but the board directors didn't promote the event, so basically nobody showed up. They knew I was giving away gifts from Malcolm X's sister, right? And when after we had our little meeting and I realized that nobody was coming, they expected me to follow through on what I said I was going to do, to which I did, but then they took advantage of me and they wiped out everything. And then they just basically fell off to the wayside and never helped me. And eventually I had to take them off as board directors for failing to participate. Basically, that's what happened. I guess she didn't like this. I guess Julian's sister didn't like me adding her video right into my description box, because as you can see now, she took it out. But this morning, it was up. Okay? It's right there. Okay? This is the games that she plays. Right? Let's refresh the page. Yeah. She took it out, people. Why? Why did she take it out? She's so bold and brave. Why did she take it out? So she can go run back and cry to YouTube how I'm talking on about her, even though she's the one stoking the fucking fire here all the time, ever since Shimei died. Okay? Was stalking my family before Shimei died. Right? Whatever. I'm just pointing that out. Okay? What's she going to do? Bring it back up another day? Is she editing it? Maybe she's changing it. Right? So if it pops back up, I guess I should watch it to see if she changed it. Right? Imported something else to twist things around. Right? Because it's a game with her. And that's the point. It's a fucking game with her. Okay? Let's see what she's got to say in this one.
Nothing else matters.
Oh boy. Anyway, I turned it off. This is all it is. Right? She acts like she's the only one who's ever lost somebody to death. Okay? Like it's pathetic. And she doesn't even tell you the real story, what went on with Howie, and how Howie died, and why Howie died. Okay. The point is she took out the video, right, so she could put herself in a victim position. Because if we go into my post, click on the link, where does it take me? Video unavailable. This video is private. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, because she plays games. Okay? Now, I'm going to upload this with what I was just doing in the kitchen. Boy, oh boy, I'm rough on cameras. It just dropped. I went to go turn off that, what I was listening to, somebody else's drama. You know, as a distraction from me, from my drama, right? Anyway. Preppers do what preppers can. Maybe I should call this a prepper video. Okay? And we don't get normally we don't get no love for it. Like all these years, like if you go on to other prepper channels and people that have been prepping for a long time in the event of a natural disaster or whatever, it usually starts off with the natural disaster because, you know, there are no guarantees in life, people. And then, you know, people just, based on their annual incomes and what resources they have access to and how they can access new resources to add on to their prepping portfolio. In other words, some people go as far as buying land out in the country so they can build in a homestead, so they can build on their prepping skills, so that if things got real bad in the world, whether through natural disaster or man-made disaster, they'd be able to sustain themselves basically on their own because of those prepping techniques that they built into the household over a period of years. And it's all based on income. In other words, some people will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with their prepping techniques compared to someone like me who might spend $20,000 or $30,000, because that's, well, I probably spent more than that if you want to take it back, especially from 2011. But besides that point, we'll just push it up to about $30,000 in terms of prepping, and my kids would verify that, right? Because this last year I put in 15 grand, people, right? And then in 2020, 21, I've been prepping forever, right? More for the natural disaster or a disaster that comes in on the jet stream, like with Fukushima radiation, and it got real bad, and you'd want to have a food supply that wasn't contaminated. But I did it within my financial means over the years. Some years I spent more, other years not so much, and whatever. Okay. And through that whole process, though, people like me that think outside the box, whether they spend $100,000 on the process or whether they spend $30,000 on the process, at the end of the day, you never have everything that you absolutely need. And if you do, then you're far and few in between in terms of, you have the land, you have the well water, you have the animals to sustain yourself so that you don't rely on grocery stores for chicken and eggs, and you've got a cow for milk or whatever, right? You can go without hydro because you've adapted your homestead to be able to do that. Or you're someone like me that ends up being a sitting duck to the politics around you in the province in terms of, get the fuck out. And if you plan on renting another house, be prepared to pay $4,000 a month, okay? Or maybe even $4,500 a month for the same type of old broken down bungalow that in general people don't like to fix because it's old. And they know it's just a matter of time before it's going to be torn down and something else will be made in replacement that you yourself as an individual could never move in. And as they do that, they wipe out all the trees, all the fruit-bearing trees, all the nut-bearing trees. They wipe out the domestic blackberry bushes and those types of things so that you become totally 100% reliant on grocery stores. So if you want blackberries, you got to go to the grocery store and wait for them to ship them in from Mexico, which basically taste like cardboard by the time you get them in British Columbia, Canada. Because as they're ripping up all the old houses and tearing down all the trees and building things that again, is not for you, but for something else that's moving into your country, and then they just put up ornamental trees because they're cheaper, buy them in bulk, nothing that produces food, right? But it makes it look like the property development is planting trees again, even though, whoever is doing this on a large scale politically, people are putting households at risk to food shortages, because eventually there's going to come a day when the grocery stores will be far and few in between. That's what preppers prep for from a political point of view, if it got to that point. I think normally it starts off with the natural disaster. So anyway, what am I saying? My son, he came to me yesterday, right? And he drives, right? So he's having to pay for gas. And of course, gas is going up all across the globe. We know that, right? He buys his own groceries. He goes into the grocery stores regularly because, he cooks for himself, and his girlfriend is now with him and they cook together. And, he comes into food much more than I do in terms on a regular basis when it comes to watching the price jump from here to there within 2 days. So 2 days later, when he goes back to go buy some more chicken, he's paying, a third more than he did 2 days in the past. Not to mention the vegetables and everything else that he buys to feed himself, as he's paying more in gas, but his income isn't going up. Okay? He came to me, he goes, Mom, I think I'm going to stop playing games on the like on the computer and blah, 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 and I'm tired of being broke and blah, 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 and I want to make money and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, you just had your brakes go out on you, and I know you paid $1,300 for one side and you've got to pay another $1,300 for the other side, and blah, blah, blah. And so, what are you saying? And I said to him, well, what are you saying? Like, he goes, well, if you got any meat, right, canned meat from back in the day, give it to me. I said, oh, what, you want some meat? I said, well, I don't, I'm not digging around for canned meat right now because I just cleared out Tisha's room, right? And the mattress that was in there is in my food storage area, where if what he's asking for, I could probably find some of those jars in there, but I can't get in there because I've got the mattress there currently until I can, find the time to clear off my bed with all that fabric on there and put the mattress on my bed, right? And then it opens up that little food storage area, and then it would be easier for me to go get him some jars from back in the day, right? So that we can recycle jars. And I said, well, okay, like, maybe you want something from the deep freeze. I'm trying to lighten the load of the deep freeze. But I said to him, I says, but you will, like, help me in a couple, 2-3 months from now to replenish it, to build it back up. Because the cost of meat is getting expensive, right? And, like, I'm already maxed out. That 15 grand, probably 5,000 of it was credit, okay? In terms of, I borrowed it on my credit card just to top off what I'm doing. Hold on, I'll show you. Like this. I still got shit like this kicking around. That's what I'm going to do today. What is it? What is it? I don't know what it is, but it's freaking heavy. I can't remember. Organic. It's spelled ADZUKI beans. Now I can grow these, but I bought these for sprouting. And like a bean sprout. I have the mung beans for the bean sprout, and then this one you can sprout as well, and you fry them up with your foods. I can plant these ones if I want. How many pounds? I don't know. 25 pounds. So I'm bagging this up today. And I still have that wheat downstairs. How many pounds, I don't know. Plus this stuff. And then I'm going to put some of them into boxes. And I'm going to label those boxes. And I'm going to put them in Auntie Shemay's room. And everything's going to be so surreal that when you go into the room, it's amazing. It's a really nice feeling. Talk about being at peace. That's the feel, because the air is so still, but so alive. And why wouldn't it be, with all those organic wheat berries in there and organic beans and that kind of stuff? Sprouting seeds and just the whole 9 yards. No wonder why it feels like it's so alive, but yet so surreal and peaceful. So, I said, like, you can help, right, to replenish it, because that's all I have. I can't, I have to pay down my own bills now and work my way out of this house over the next however long, right? And get to the next location where it's more suited for Amari's needs, right? In terms of, well, is that where we can put a hoist, and would the landlord allow us to do it? Because you can't put up hoist on the ceiling unless the landlord agrees to do it. Okay. How much I'd use it, I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point where he's that big and I would need something like that. Okay? But that's where I'm working towards. Okay? And he goes, oh no, I can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, you can just go grab some meat for now and take what you want. Just show me what you got, right? In terms of, so that when I go looking for something, I don't like, where did it go? My son ate it all. Right? You know? So he came off with some, beautiful pork spare ribs. And he knew, because he took both packages, right? And he knew I was a little irked about it. And he said, oh, don't worry, Mom. When I make them, I'll make sure you and Andre get some too. And I'm like, yeah, and Mari, right? I'm like, yeah, well, you make sure you do that, right? So, I know he understands that I myself can't that's why he's asking for the jars, right? Because, it's 1 jar per meal, right? Basically, 1 jar for him at a time is perfect. So in my travels, and I just said, you just have to wait, right? Until I can get into areas. So really what I should do is I should, as I'm reorganizing and rearranging, I should make a specific area, just one little spot. It's hard to do that though, because, I don't have the proper shelving, but just one little area where those jars need to be recycled faster than, say, other jars somewhere else, so that he can just freely go and grab what he wants when he wants, right? But then on the other hand, I don't also want him going through the house and eating me out of house and home, not replenishing it back, because he's trying to save money as I go back into further debt to buy more meat at an exorbitant price just to replace what he's been taking. So I have to be careful, and I have to, he needs to understand. And this is where, in his mind, prepping is unimportant because he's never been faced with real poverty, right? So, and he was basically taught through social conditioning to trust his government, even though he's had bad experiences, knowing that you can't really trust the government, especially if you're a targeted family. But the economy hasn't gotten bad enough yet for him to acknowledge that prepping in general, for however it started off as, is going to be a lifeline for a lot of families that have been doing it for years and years and years and years, and then getting criticized for it as we do it, because everybody is in a bubble thinking everything will be fine and there will always be food in the grocery stores and it will always be affordable and it will just whatever be accessibly readily accessible. Like, he can't fathom food lines with ration cards. He just can't wrap his head around the economy coming down to that level. Well, you've got that 20% of the elite, like in the Roaring 20s, dancing with their tassels, acting like the other 80% didn't matter. And who cares if they were starving to death? Right? He just doesn't think that society would ever come back to that level. But where we're at right now, it's probably starting to register with him, because he's, he pays, I don't know how much more he pays just with his food and his gas alone in terms of the inflation increase. And, when it gets expensive, it's like, well, how can I save money just to keep up with the general cost? Well, Mom's got food, right? She got so much that, right? It's not going to hurt her if she gives me some. What I don't like is the fact that he doesn't want to replenish it back after he eats it, knowing, and I said this to him yesterday, well, you do realize that that's all I have. And I have to make it stretch out. And I'm not in a position to replenish it back myself, especially if I'm not eating it. How much he acknowledges that, I don't know. How much he expects from me to give to him as a mother would give to a son, right? I don't know. He said, well, you don't have to worry. Don't worry about money. I was just asking. I said, well, no, it's like, I have no problem recycling some of this stuff. I just haven't been able to get to it yet because I'm still doing stuff like this, people. I just got that business room with Tisha. It's going to take a while to figure it out, and I have to get out in the yard pretty soon and stuff, right? And, take that prepping mode to the next level and trying to get a few things planted into the ground, maybe not as much as I'd like to. And even then, if I was, and I have too big of a bounty, then I'm in the kitchen canning the stuff as if I want to go through that all summer long again. I don't mind doing a little bit of canning, especially for Amari with the applesauces and stuff like that. Beans and stuff like that. Those are always nice, right? I have no problem doing, and it's easy. Stuff like that, right? Miscellaneous here and there, but I don't want to do what I did last year, people, in the kitchen every freaking day, almost 10 hours a day. That was crazy. Okay. I want to finish up the yard this year. I bought spray paint, all these different colors for metal and stuff like that, to dress up the yard in between doing whatever it is that I'm going to be doing to finish it. I'm going to sand down things that need to be sanded and respray it, so that by the end of the year, it should look really, really nice. That's my goal for this year. So, I can't have my son munching in the background, emptying out all my jars, and not be willing to pay not even $200-300 in a few months from now when he gets caught up with whatever's going on with him with his brakes and stuff, right? To have the economy get worse, hyperinflation kicking even worse, and and I'm on a fixed budget and I have to pay down my own bills, right? It defeats what I'm doing. So I need to make him understand that the more we can sit on it for the next year or two, unless, of course, you're willing to eat it and replace it. If you're not willing to replace it, there is no point in eating it up, because that's for the day when you go to the grocery store now and you're going to find that the chicken isn't really even there anymore, or the eggs. Why do you think I'm making homemade macaroni? Right? Because of the eggs, more so than the flour. It's just old flour. It's the eggs that I'm doing it for, people, in order to preserve the egg and the protein. There's 60 calories per egg. That's a good food source, okay, for anybody, but especially for Amari. But until you actually go to the grocery store and find that there are no eggs, it's going to take that to make those individuals wake up and realize that they wish they had a prepper's pantry. A prepper's pantry to access, to get them through to the next whatever end game our governments have for us as a society and communities, and from household to household to household. Okay. It's like an insurance policy. You don't cash in your insurance policy until you really need it. And even then, you try not to. Okay? So I'm like, well, how do I make my son understand that I don't mind here and there every now and then, but if you think it's just a natural resource that never replenishes itself and you expect me to replenish it after you depleted it, well, you got another thing coming, because you're already talking about moving out with your girlfriend and leaving me behind. Now, he did say that if and when I need to live with somebody because Amari's getting bigger and heavier and I'm getting older and more fragile and maybe blinder, he would move and we'd get a bigger house, and he, right? So that we could continue looking after Amari. But as it is right now, I'm still viable enough that, I don't need him. I don't need to smother him, right? And make him feel obligated that he has to stay here just to pay rent so that I can work my way out of a house, right? I can do that without him at this point because I'm still functional. But I also know that there's going to come a day when I'm going to have to be with one of my kids. And unless, of course, they decide to put me into an old folks' home. And in that situation, they can prepare never to see me again because of what our governments are doing to old people these days by putting them under lock and key and throwing them away like dirty secrets. Okay? And for everything that I stood up against in terms of inoculations that are experimental, well, the minute I get into that system, that part of the healthcare system, you might as well kiss your mother goodbye. So right now, they're not really thinking about doing that versus, Marcane is willing to, when I'm ready to leave this house, move into a bigger house where he has his suite with it. By then, I hope they'll probably be married with his wife, and I'll have my suite so that if I need him, like ASAP or whatever, he's there. Right? And because I'm getting older, the yard won't be what I have now because it just won't be able to manage it, right? I can still manage it. Like I said, I bought like 7 different spray paint cans when I was doing that stuff with the food. In my mind, how I was in the garden and in the yard decorating it when I was in here doing all this food stuff, knowing that it was just a matter of time before I'd be out there to finish the job. So anyway, I'm trying not to worry about that because my son is reasonable, right? And, I'm trying to figure out how I can help him out where it really doesn't infringe on my food security. And as I'm talking to you right now, as to those who are watching this video, I think the best way for him to find those jars, because he's basically asking for the older meat jars. He wants meat. That's because it's expensive, right? And the best way for me to provide access to him for those things, because I have a fair amount, right, would be to try and pick a corner where I can kind of migrate everything to that corner and say, okay, you see this side? This is freestyle. Take what you want when you want. Just use it within reason, right? And when you're done with the jar, wash it and put it back into its box so that by the time, it's all gone, then we have a fresh box of jars, right? But this over here, don't touch because that's the backup, right? That's the one for in a year and a half from now when they don't have grain to feed the animals because the farmers couldn't plant the grain, right? Because they couldn't get fertilizer and they couldn't get diesel and they couldn't get parts to fix their tractors. And just if you know what's going on, you know that right now what we're eating is that surplus from a year, 2 years ago, but it's not being replenished, it's not being replanted, it's not being regrown to continue with the consumerism of that food chain and how it trickles out into society and into households so that people are basically well fed, right? There's going to come a day when if you want a loaf of bread, you better be prepared to pay $15 unless you can go home and grind the wheat yourself. He's not showing an interest in wheat yet. Okay? Because one, he doesn't eat a lot of bread. And when he does, so he buys a loaf of bread for $5. It's not clicking in yet. But when he goes to the grocery store in a year from now, and if that same loaf of bread is $8, $9, $10, maybe $15, who knows? Right? That's when he's going to come to me and say, well, can I have some wheat? And I'll be like, no, because you ate all the meat and you never replenished it. For whatever reason, you felt that you weren't obligated to replenish it. So why would I start giving you the wheat? now that you realize that, there's a shortage of grains in general. Right? And of course, he's a man, so you have to tippy-toe around the subject so that you don't insult his integrity. Because God forbid if he was taking advantage of mom, right? And, you know what I'm saying? But, it's like anything in life. You give them an inch and they go for the mile, especially if it's with mom, right? Right? That's what moms are for, right? So the best method to deal with this problem is to break up my stash into 2 different piles and say, this is the one that we use more often, right? Keep in mind, if you end up eating $300-400 of meat and you know it, then you should be willing to contribute back at some point in the future to replenish at any cost, okay? Because to expect me to go off and rack up my credit card after I bring it down, assuming that I can even do that, just so that you can continue eating it, and then criticize me for being a prepper, right? Criticize me for being a prepper now that the shit's really starting to hit the fan in terms of the economical food supply chain crashing all around us. If they don't have wheat and those kind of things to feed the animals, how long do people expect to find meat in their grocery stores? What is it going to take? 2 years of bad crops or no crops to have the animals starve off as the people around them from country to country is starving off, right? Before they realize that whatever's in that pantry might be the only thing that gets them through until they can find another way to save themselves. Because as it is right now, and I've said this before, you're just extending your life. You're not even saving your life doing this stuff, people. You're just extending it. And for how long, it remains to be seen, especially if you're a targeted family. And there's a lot of people being targeted right now. Their small businesses are being targeted. Their employment positions are being targeted. They're being targeted within the healthcare system. They're being targeted within the school systems, just through the whole 9 yards, okay? Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of families, millions of individuals are being targeted with ruthless politics that is dragging down the whole world. As our politicians basically straight up and bold-faced lie in our faces. And because Canada is a little more well insulated in terms of that trickle-down effect, to the point where it's going to take probably a little longer for the grocery stores to really become bare. But, on the path that the world is on in general, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So anything that I do is just extending my family's life, right? Whether I'm here or not, it doesn't matter. It's not saving their life. It's just giving them an opportunity to be able to extend their lives. That's different than trying to save money so that you can get more money. It's not about money. It's about having the resources to be able to have the protein in your diet, even though you can't go to the grocery store and buy it anymore because our governments have failed us. And then that's when it becomes that 80% population standing in the food bank line with their ration cards, while the other 20% are shaking and, and boogie-woogie with their tassels like it's the Roaring '20s. Maybe that's why they called it the Roaring '20s, because it was only 20% of the population that was flourishing, as 80% were basically starting to starve. So I try really hard not to get depressed and lose faith in the goodness of, I guess you could say, humanity. Although I don't know about it anymore. I really don't. Right? I try not to speculate too much on some things, other than just be proactive. Okay? So that's what I'm going to work on today. There's no point in carrying on with this video because I've already talked too much. Right? You know, and I just need to do what I got to do here. I am going to bring up the floodlights just because it's hard to see and my eyes like hurt because of this. And I'm going to work on the butter, right, over the next couple of days. And as I do it, I'll explain to you why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it so that you can fit it into your day. While you can still find butter and afford to buy it. Okay? Because whatever it is that I can when it comes to butter, like I said, it will extend my family's life with or without me being here. Okay? And it will be affordable because I won't have to replace it for a while. Now, that coconut stuff that I just bought for Amari and rejarred, where is it? I have to go find another jar. I got some downstairs, but I don't know where I put them in Auntie Shemai's room. But I think I left one up here, and I think I know where it is. But look how fast I'm going through it, people. This is good. Okay? Really, really helpful. Okay, I'm still waiting for this other video to convert over for BitChute because I have to bring it down to 4 gigabytes. And that takes some time, and I can't transfer these videos from this stuff onto the computer, so since I'm waiting. So anyway, that's that bean, which is actually sproutable, but not the kind that you can eat raw. Okay, they haven't been pre-treated, so they have microbials on them. But you can sprout them and then saute them. Okay, that you can do. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so, you know, as long as you cook them, you'll be good after the fact. And when you sprout them, what it does is it releases other enzymes and it makes the bean easier to digest. Plus, you're getting that vegetable fiber. Okay, so right now I'm making three jars for downstairs for storage, and two jars downstairs for storage, 1 jar upstairs, and then I've got 1 jar left for the wheat that's downstairs that when I fill it up, I can bring it upstairs. And then the rest will be packaged into bags and vacuum seals. Right? That's what's going to happen. Along with those red lentils. Because I put those yellow lentils in jars. And you can only buy 6 at a time. So hold on.